Good morning, everyone. Well, good morning to the folks who are joining us on the East Coast of the US and heading west. If you're calling in from Europe, maybe good afternoon. Thanks very much to everyone for joining us today. We're going to have a discussion on B2B marketing must-haves, sponsored by NADEC and IBT Online. So our goal today is to share some experiences and thoughts about what the future looks like for business-to-business marketing. Just a couple of housekeeping details before we dive into our presentation. There will be a few polls throughout today's presentation. I believe we have 3 planned, and your responses are very much appreciated as they help us develop future content, the type of content that you're looking for. So thank you very much for joining us with that. And then we have a survey at the end. This is a survey that typically takes less than a minute, and so we very much appreciate your participation in that survey at the end of the presentation. So let's go ahead and get started. To begin, we are IBT Online. IBT Online is a US company that specializes in 2 worlds. We specialize in the online world, and we specialize in all things international, in particular, websites and online marketing. Our goal is to help you grow your exports, your sales, your brand, and your business internationally. A little bit about IBT Online. We've been around for a number of years. We've helped many clients in many different states around the US and in Canada. And the goal has been to help them reach prospects in many different countries. And so you see here, you get a sense of the breadth of our work and our experience. We're very proud of the awards that we have won, including the President's E Award. But we're very proud of the feedback that we get from our clients in regard to our ability to reach their goals, our ability to retain those clients, and their satisfaction rates. So just a little bit about IBT Online. The programs that we offer are something that we're very proud of as well. Something that we're proud to have developed these online global programs and partnered with several US states and Canadian provinces. So these programs are tailored to small and medium-sized enterprises. And it's a well-trodden path to help companies get international websites and online marketing. It is my pleasure to be joined today by 2 colleagues. First, Jonathan Such. Jonathan is the president of Advanced Super Abrasives, which is an amazing advanced manufacturer found in Mars Hill, North Carolina. Current holder of the record, I believe, here in North Carolina, perhaps the US, of furthest export. Jonathan, you can tell us about that. He's also the vice chairman of the National Association of District Export Councils. And we've also got Joelle Lazzaroto. Joelle is a senior marketing manager here at IBT Online, and her focus is on developing effective international online marketing campaigns. So we'll hear from both of them as we go along. And then finally, myself, John Loyak. I'm the online partner director here at IBT Online. But why don't we go ahead and dive right into the agenda. Our goal today is to discuss some of the basics of international business-to-business marketing. We'll talk about how to be found, how to be understood, how to be easy to do business with in global markets. We'll share some best practices and the latest trends, including a section on video marketing, which is something that we see gaining huge ground in terms of your ability to reach international prospects. Jonathan will share a case study on Advanced Super Abrasives. But first, Jonathan, before we dive in any further, let me turn it over to you for a word on NADEC.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Joelle. Thank you, attendees. We really appreciate all of you attending. You know, the NADEC, National Association of District Export Councils, what can I say? You know, we have had a very busy year. We had a great annual conference in May, planning a lot of things in the future, a lot of webinars, just like what you're seeing right now. But we really, you know, we're your conduit, we're your voice to commerce. But beyond that, you know, we are shifting gears, and that kind of things are opening up a little bit. And so we're going to be doing more events, more of these educational webinars, but more events in person. May conference, we're already working on it for 2023, and working on all kinds of trade policy related items. But you know, what's really important about webinars such as the one we're on right now is what you DEC members and business owners get from this, or business executives. And that is, you know, opportunity to hear from our partners such as IBT Online, but then case studies such as mine that you'll hear about later. Were my successes? What were we able to do? Because as we all know, the world is changing. You know, we have this technology to do these webinars and to do online Zoom meetings and everything. And you know, IBT Online has helped my company tremendously, has worked with the NADEC on several initiatives to really help us up our game, so to speak. So, you know, the National Association of District Export Councils, for those of you that may not know, you know, we're your conduit. There's 16 elected members in 8 regions. And, you know, if you have not met your representative in your region, I highly suggest you reach out to them and get a hold of them. You can go to our website, usaexporter.org, and look up your region, your DEC, get a lot of information. I hope you're getting our newsletters, because things like this webinar are included in those. So, you know, the NADEC really values our relationship and partnership with IBT Online, and glad to be on this webinar to share my personal experience, not only you know, the experience that we've had from the NADEC. So from a NADEC perspective, I want to welcome all of you, and we will dive right into the material, and so we can get to the case study so you can hear what you really want to hear from me, which is not about the NADEC, but about this. So thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thanks very much to the entire team. The district export councils are such an important part of export promotion in the U.S., and we thank you for everything that you do and the opportunity to come here to talk about subjects like B2B marketing. So let's go ahead and get started by asking, who are you marketing to? Talk a little bit about buyer personas and buyer's journey. All of the presentation today is going to have a focus on international markets. We want folks to understand what it's going to take and how there are a number of very significant subtle differences to help your international prospecting be much more successful. And so we'll go through a couple of those things now. First, when it comes to business marketing, before you start designing and developing marketing campaigns, there's one key element that you need to define: your buyer persona. As HubSpot defines it, a buyer persona is a semi-fictional representation of your ideal customer based on market research and real data about your existing customers. Defining a buyer persona is extremely important. It allows you to make sure that you're always reaching the right person at the right time with the right message. And this is something that can help you save yourself a ton of time and resources. What's important to keep in mind about your buyer persona that you should have a few different buyer personas, in particular for your international buyers. They speak different languages. They have different buyer habits. Things are slightly different when it comes to an international market. So having multiple buyer personas is something that can be a significant advantage for your business. It's also important to note, however, that the international buyer persona can differ from your domestic persona, especially in times like these. So this next slide shows us that there are a few questions you should ask yourself using these multiple buyer personas for your export markets. How do they find me? What do they care about? What are the things that help me reach these different buyers? So just take these images from one corporate B2B website. The top image is obviously a US homepage. We see that we're moving into downtown Indianapolis. You see the message is about we're leading the way. This is something that is based and has been developed for a buyer persona that's based here in the US. The bottom image, it's a little bit subtle, but this is the UK homepage. Same company, same branding, but the image tells you immediately that you're in the UK. We know this because we can tell which side of the road that they're driving on. We can also look at the license plates, and even the styles of the car are slightly different. Subtle differences that help you reach a client or potential client in these international markets. So the second step, we'll talk a little bit about the events that drive the connections necessary for a successful buyer's life cycle. The second step, once you define your buyer persona, that you can figure out about your buyer's journey. So let's think about this from the buyer's perspective. The buyer's journey is the active research process someone goes through leading up to a purchase. It's a fundamental part of any social media strategy because it's a framework you can use to understand your buyer's needs and provide the information they need to reach their goals. So what you see here is their journey from awareness through the purchase. Every step of the way that they take, each interaction your persona has with your business should be tailored to where they are on the buyer's journey. For example, every potential buyer is focused on number one, identifying the problem. That's the awareness section. Number two, understanding what options they have to solve a particular challenge. That's consideration. Evaluation, they're going to compare top choices. And finally, their purchase. This is why businesses need these different buyer personas. It helps them and it helps them as they accompany their buyers through that buyer journey. This is why you need to localize your website and your social media to make sure you're engaging with the local buyer persona in a way that they want, and that also gives you more credibility. So if you're curious if personas can really vary across geographies, they definitely can. So here's a great example of how different buyer personas interact with social media campaigns. This is an example from a Facebook campaign where we were promoting the same product, similar imagery and message, although of course localized and staying relevant to the local audience. So if you look at the results here, for a specific post for the UK, there's over 1,200 engagements. But we were amazingly pleased with that, but even more pleased when you looked at the social media in Mexico. We were blown away with over 20,000 engagements there. If we stopped our analysis right here, we would infer that our campaign in Mexico worked better, right? Not necessarily. This next slide it takes a look at the data at a different level. Here you have the same company, but looking at their Facebook postings over a year and comparing Mexico with the UK. So we said that there's a lot more engagement in Mexico. You can see that in the blue and red bars. Just look at Mexico versus the UK, blue and red. Engagement here is measured as the number of times someone clicked on a message, liked it, shared the posting, and that's important for long-term brand awareness. But what about lead generation? If we're looking closer, we can see that the UK and Mexico are actually much more similar. If we're looking for lead generation, that is reflected in the green and yellow bars on the two charts. These show us the number of times people have clicked on where can I buy or how to use. So you can see that the Mexican buyer persona engages more easily than the British, but lead generation, actual sales are about the same. The buyer personas of the two markets react differently. So now, Joelle, I'll turn it over to you for a discussion about your business-to-business online presence.
John, thank you so much. And absolutely, there is a lot to cover in today's webinar. But before diving too much, diving into the details and get into Jonathan's case study, we just wanted to really maybe start from what maybe it's a bit basic, but really, what does your B2B online presence look like? So how do you reach your clients, your prospects, they're anywhere, anytime, very much starting with your B2B website. So we've seen it, I think, over the past few years, it's all convinced us that the world is online. Everyone you're trying to do business with, or you've already done business with, so your clients, your prospects, future employees, even your suppliers, they're all engaging online. They will search online, and they will do so in the local environment. So really, there are a couple of really big umbrellas that we will talk about, effective online business development tools, and those are localized websites and localized online marketing campaigns. So as we see companies continue to grow their online presence, really these two elements are becoming more and more important. So first thing first, what is a localized website and why you need one? Well, then I'll show you some examples here of what that looks like and why that is important. And then we'll really move on to discussing how these localized websites are and should be the foundation of your, you've guessed it, localized online marketing strategy. So everyone has a website, whether it's great, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's just a brochure, your website is and should be your best sales representative. Really is, curated showcase of your products and services. They are open 24/7 for you, really allowing you to never miss out on the opportunity to, reach someone that is searching, someone that is navigating, someone that's found your brand. Really make sure that you revamp and update the site as is needed. Did you launch a new product? Did you change your pricing structure? Do you have a new blog or case studies? Put it on your website. That's the best opportunity you have to showcase it and to leverage it. But also ensure that the content is localized and market relevant. As we've seen an example earlier from the US versus UK, although it might seem very similar, similar language, but very different buyer personas. So keep that in mind. That was a very important point that John shared with us today. And also all of this work, the localized presence and all of the new content will enhance your SEO. So for those of you who are a bit more familiar with this, search engine optimization is fundamental to grow the organic visibility of your website, and is very much the fundamental of that long-term growth for your local website, whether you're talking about your domestic websites in the US or Canada, or whether we're talking about a localized version of your website in your international target markets. One thing to keep in mind when we're talking about content and why localization is important is that when we look at, as we call it, yesterday's world, relationships really used to be a one-to-way, a one-way, one-to-one street from customers talking to partners, then the partners communicating with your company, then speaking with another customer. You really had the company in the middle, and then they would, you would then distribute content to your distributors, customers, and so on and so forth. But today, with all of this digital content that we have, everyone is looking online, and very much the customer always comes first. So whether you look at Google, whether you look at Facebook, whether you look at how people use online, customer is first. And you need to make sure that your marketing strategy and your, the way you think about promoting your company digitally, whether domestically or internationally, has to make this shift. Everyone can collaborate with anyone, and the search engines are very, very respectful of that. And this is an example. So I'm sure you have a website for your company, and let's say you want to reach some prospects, let's say in an international market, Latin America, Europe, the Far East. You might think, well, let's start small. Let me add a couple of pages in the local language to my website, and surely that, that'll do the trick. They're going to be able to find me. They're going to be able to read about it, and then everything else they can find in English. Well, unfortunately, that's not the case. Although maybe, your audience might be able to understand your pricing, might be able to look at your products in English. Search engines, and here I've picked Google as maybe an obvious example, again, the global leader from an international perspective, but also same applies to others like Yandex, if you're looking more Russian speaking, or Bing, Baidu. And actually these days applies even to platforms like YouTube, Amazon, Facebook. All these are search engines, and all of these are user-centric, as we say. They're all searcher-centric. So think about Google again. They have 192 country or regional specific search engine. And why is this? Again, to make sure that the local users receive the best possible local, culturally and linguistically relevant results for them. So if your couple of additional pages to your website are not highly relevant to the target search engine, if you don't have the right keywords, don't have the right URL even, you might as well be invisible. You will never be found on that specific search engine. So let's say you're targeting the German market. Well, your searcher will be likely to use google.de. They will probably search in German. And really they want to see, for example, measurement in metric and prices in Europe. So all of this will be taken into account, and not just by the searcher, but also by the search engine that will match your website with the searcher. So just to provide an example of why it's so important to have a localized version of your website. John and I are in meetings. Obviously, he's based in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm here in London, in the UK. And we both have, dogs that love to play in the background of our Teams meeting. And it seems to be the best time for them to start barking is when we have a webinar. So we did a bit of an experiment, and we both searched on Google for squeakless dog toys. So obviously, John being in North Carolina, use google.com. My local version would be google.co.uk. We use the same keyword at the same time, squeakless dog toys, but look at the results. So in the US, you have websites as chewy.com, amazon.com, freedompoolharness.com, US websites targeted to local searchers in the US. Whereas if you look at the UK, I had maybe even brands I hadn't heard of, but non-squeaky dogs toys from amazon.co.uk, bettyanddutch.co.uk, Basel.com with a blog that's specific for the UK, pricing in US dollars versus pricing in British pounds. You know, maybe a simplistic example here, but this applies to any searches in any market. So even someone like Amazon really looks at where the searcher is, how they're searching, and provides them with the best localized option for them. So just a summary here, really keep in mind that translation and keyword research is only one aspect of having a localized site. There is so much more that comes into play. So we talk about translation, but I've also mentioned URLs, so your domain name, where your domain name is registered really does make a difference. So we're talking about amazon.co.uk, amazon.de, amazon.es for the different markets, multilingual navigation, but also other things, you know, that you want to make sure that it is taking into account the cultural aspects. And this could be different holidays, could be different pricing, it could be the different unity of measures, but also regulatory requirements. If you're going into Europe, make sure that you are GDPR compliant. If you're going into Germany, make sure you have an impressum. So all of these is not only important to not get fined, but is also so important to build trust with your local searcher that will know, will expect to see that. And that would really make them feel safe, secure, and in a way, giving them the native opportunities that they have to engage with your website. So in practice, really, this is maybe what a simplified way of what you would call your digital real estate would look like. So you have your domestic, in this case, US, but could be, you know, Canadian or European, wherever you consider domestic market being, with his own communication policies, with his own products, with his own specifications. And here you have a social media strategy, an SEO strategy, any other marketing, and that this will then be replicated but localized for your international markets, for example, France and Brazil in this case. So let's say you're targeting these markets, then you also need a dedicated website with his own search engine and social media marketing strategy, really using the website as a springboard to get people engaging with you in the native language, finding you in the native search engine advertising, in the native, you know, social media keywords, using the right hashtag for them. So a takeaway here as we dive into the world of B2B marketing, make sure you have a localized website first. You know, then you build your marketing on top of it. This is one of the two main digital tools that we see really bringing success to exporters. So it really is your, we like to call it a springboard, bringing people back and then keeping them on the website. So it's not just being found, but it's being understood and then being easy to build that business relationship with your international customers. So before I hand you back over to John to look at what, you know, could a B2B online presence look like, I just wanted to really quickly dive into the online global programs. We've mentioned them at the beginning. And really, these B2B online programs have been built to help exporters not only grow visibility, but really grow exports, sales, brand, and business globally. So I have a quick poll here just to get to know a little bit more about who is with us today. And I just wanted to put a little thought in your head, you know, think about, you know, what would happen to your business if by implementing some little things like this, your export could grow by 30% year on year, you know, like some of our clients. I'll just leave it there. And before diving into the next section, I just want to launch a very quick poll. As I said, just a bit of a warm-up one, just really seeing who we have. And I'd love to know a little bit more about what are your, you know, top target markets, top export markets. Again, maybe a little bit oversimplified, but are you exporting in Latin America? Are you exporting in Europe, more to the Far East, APAC? Are you actually exporting into the USA, or are you going into other markets, again, India, Middle East, Africa, some pretty big ones here. And I can see that we've got a very big portion in the Latin American region, but the rest of it seems to be fairly well represented. So I'm very pleased to see that we have a good spread of target markets, again, Asia Pacific, others, which I'd love to know more on which one those are. So if you have any specific question, I don't know if we have mentioned, we have a Q&A at the end, so pop your questions in the question box, or you can chat with us, and we have moderators online as well. Just giving you a couple of seconds because I can see people are still voting, but I'm going to close this poll. But that's fantastic. Thank you so much. Very enthusiastic participation. Excellent. Well, really diving into this now, John, I'll hand over to you to tell us a bit more about what does actually B2B online presence look like.
No, thank you, Joelle. And this is really important because over the next few slides, we will talk about how to connect, engage, and build awareness and trust. Those are common themes we're going to hear. But first, I just want to give you a little bit of a look at the world and see how many people are using digital resources to live their lives today. This is absolutely staggering to me. In a world of almost 8 billion people, almost 5 billion of them are internet users. This is a really important point when you consider that 62% of the world is using the internet, and they spend an average of 7 hours a day on the internet. This is why you need to take advantage of the digital strategies and the tools that you have access to. The next slide will show us about building brand awareness and connecting with audiences, but largely focused on social media. A social media strategy is used in tandem with your other marketing efforts to effectively build that brand awareness, connect with your audiences where they want to be found. And if you're wondering where they want to be found, just take a look at these numbers. 58% of buyers are using YouTube, 33% are using LinkedIn, 48% use Facebook. This means if you don't have a strong presence or even any social media presence at all, you may be invisible to a large B2B audience. So these numbers are only increasing, and so this is really one of the key points. And the next slide, just as a segue into further discussion, simply put, it's no longer a nice to have, it's a must have. This is a necessity. Digital strategies are no longer an additional complement to your business. They're now a necessity to seeing future success. And as we all saw during the pandemic, when we couldn't travel and go to international locations, having those digital tools allow businesses to successfully reach to their international prospects. I'd like to talk a little bit about the future of sales, and I think this can be described really in 3 steps. Number 1, digital first. That's your first way in the door. The omni-channel approach is also one that people are looking at and defending more. This is something that's being driven by customers. Customers want that always-on, personalized omni-channel experience. It's those multiple touch points are really what a business needs to consider when they're reaching out to their prospects. Customers are always looking for a personalized omni-channel experience. And finally, sales is customer-centric. It's no longer about the sales pitch, it's about the customer. A business-to-business digital commerce strategy is essential. Companies have to invest in digital technology that improve the buyer experience. Social selling is something that we see more and more has moved to the forefront among sales strategies, in large part because it lends itself to a more personal, engaging sales methodology. Multi-threaded engagement acknowledges that the customer journey is not predictable and allows sellers to dynamically flex human and digital resources with the constantly changing customer journey. Customers want an always-on, personalized, omni-channel experience. The internet does not sleep. The world's best buyers are giving it to them, and that's how they reach them. So we're moving from a face-to-face world into the digital networking arena. It doesn't matter if you prefer face-to-face. You've got to meet your buyers where they are and where they want to be found. We know that businesses are going to begin traveling and getting back to a normal trade show schedule. But if you look at the Gartner numbers, they predict that by 2025, 80% of all interactions in a B2B sale will take place in the digital world. So through social media, through websites, this is the way that things are moving. So digital marketing is not just for B2C companies. We've seen the impact there. B2B is affected as well. What we're talking about here on out is the B2B marketplace. There's a new workforce. Millennials and Gen Z are taking on more leadership roles within organizations. These generations are digital champions. They grew up on them. We know that these are the first generations who have grown up using these devices since the crib. They expect online resources. B2B buyers increasingly want to engage with suppliers through digital and self-service channels. As business customers learn and buy more online, unflattering comparisons to advanced digital retail and media companies is unavoidable. And I know this breaks your heart to hear it for some, but this is the truth. The new buyers prefer digital channels to in-person interactions. So I mentioned a term earlier, approach. We're all aware that nowadays the customer journey is not predictable, so it's important to increase the number of touch points you have with customers. So when we look at the world of omnichannel excellence is where you have 10 or more channels. It's just something that allows sellers to more dynamically flex those human and digital resources with a constantly changing customer journey. This gives businesses the ability to cast a very wide net to catch as many different customers as they can, and also pivot as the customers change. Some of them, as the part of the journey continues, they may take a step back. It allows you to continue to grow and move with your buyers. The next slide talks a little bit about where are your buyers. It's important that we all think about where your buyers are, not necessarily what country they're in, but where do they spend their time at work? Where are those potential customer touch points? Are they on Google looking for solutions for their business problems? Are they using social media? Are they reading online industry journals? It's likely they're going to be using all three. So put yourself in their shoes. If they're looking for your products and services, where are they going to look first? And this gives you an idea of some of them. And so now I just want to share a few extra tips. Talk a little bit about a structured social media approach. We know that trade shows will continue, but now it's a matter of using social media in combination with those. So these images show how to tie a social media campaign to an in-person event. Reaching the right person with the right message at the right time has long been the holy grail of marketing. The technology and data is tantalizingly close, and yet context and intent remain elusive. Personalized marketing is still wasted if it hits the wrong context and intent. So look for a structured social media approach that allows you to build awareness. So what we see here is a business is using their Instagram account and LinkedIn in order to let people know that they're going to be at a particular event. The next slide provides another tip, and this is about online landing pages that are tied to an event that you're attending, and this really should be a priority. So these are two extremely important things to think about before you go to the event. It's important to take the time to design a strong landing page which has relevant content for the event, situates your company's credibility within the industry, offers a form or a call to action so that the lead can get in touch. This landing page is crucial to all types of events, whether they're virtual or physical. Besides the events, landing pages convert more traffic because they're focused on one goal or call to action by providing information about a specific offer or information about an upcoming event. It has limited navigation, so that simplicity keeps the visitor focused. They're not going to be moving off and distracted by multiple links that take them away from the page. And so these are just some of the things that we want businesses to consider as they look at a digital marketing effort overall. So with that, Jonathan, I'll turn it to you so that you can share some of your experiences in this space, in particular in Canada and Mexico.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Joel. So a lot of great information there.
I hate to interrupt. I'm sorry. I was trying to. I'd like to launch a very quick poll before we dive into your section, if that's okay. So then I don't have to interrupt you again. I'll just wanted to again see if obviously John, you've given us some fantastic tips here in terms of the marketing and how to use that for events and how that links to the localized website. So I just want to launch a quick poll to see if there is any of our attendees that'd like to receive more information about localized websites, marketing, and how really the Align Global programs could, what they entail and how they can be used to, to really leverage and, expand and build on the localized presence. So just, I can see people are still voting. That's fantastic. We'll be in touch directly with all of you who are responding now. I can see there are a couple more coming through. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. We're getting some very enthusiastic responses here. We're going to have a busy couple of days following up, but that's what we love. Okay, give a few more seconds. Fantastic. Let me close this. Thank you so much. And now, Jonathan, very much will hand over to you.
Thank you, Joelle. Thank you, John. So a lot of great information that everybody's just heard. I'm just here to give you kind of my own personal experience. I could probably spend an hour just talking to you about my personal experience in starting our own international websites. And Joelle has been so kind to put our what was our hideous website when I started working with Joelle and her team. And you can see I have the ultimate sin. I have the Google Translator bar right there in the middle of the website. You can see it's only dedicated for the US. We have nothing targeting any other country. And you know what we make, you can see a picture of them right there, is some grinding wheels. So you're probably saying, what are grinding wheels? Well, they touch every part of your life, whether it's woodworking, whether it's medical, automotive, aerospace. If it's high precision, it has to be ground. So we make grinding wheels for all those different industries. Closest thing to most people right now is if you had a COVID shot and the needle went in your arm and it didn't hurt, you're welcome. Our wheels ground the needle tips for all those. If it did hurt, it was a competitor's wheel, probably from Asia, and I'm sorry, you should tell them use better needles next time. But you know, these are the things that my products grind, and it's always been a person-to-person, you know, travel, trade shows, call people. You know, people wanted to talk. Well, when the pandemic hit, couldn't go anywhere. No trade shows, couldn't go out on the shop floor, couldn't do this, couldn't do that. Even local customers couldn't go out on the floor because everything was locked down. And you know, we started looking around going, oh, how are we staying in touch with our customers? So we started working with IBT Online and their team, and Joelle was part of that team that we started with and continue to work with. And this is the really nice website that we created. We revamped our US website and said, hey, let's go ahead and make websites for our two largest markets. Two largest markets were Canada and Mexico. So we said, we're going to build websites for them, but we also want to build a website for the US because we don't want to let our US customers, you know, down with that ugly website. So we did the US website, and then we went and got step grant money to pay for Mexico and Canada websites. And in working with Joelle and the team at IBT, we started looking at, well, what do we really need to do? What are our goals? And so our goals for Canada and Mexico at the beginning when we went live was name and brand recognition. We wanted to hit every market, so you can see our industry segments there: aerospace, automotive, ceramics, energy, just blanket it. Now, the hardest market that Joelle and her team will have to build a website for is our furthest export that John alluded to. We have the furthest export of a North Carolina company, I know for sure. We made a wheel here in Mars Hill, North Carolina. It went up on the Curiosity rover, and it's sitting on Mars. So Joelle and her team will have to create a website for the Martians. I don't know how that's possible, but she'll figure it out. But
challenge accepted.
Yes, so you know, these are, you can see right there, and the reason why I say it is you can see from guitars to Mars is on there. So people are probably going, what's Mars? But I just wanted to say that. But you know, we want to target Canada and Mexico, and we wanted to blanket it with all those industry segments. So that's what we did. We built the websites, you know, asiwheels.mx.ca for Canada, and really started launching into that. And from that, we said, okay, well, what else can we do? So Joelle and her team came back and said, well, social media marketing would be great. And you can see there some of the Mexico stuff, but she says social media marketing strategy is very important tying to your website, because you want to drive traffic to your websites. You spent the money on the websites, but we need to drive traffic. And it's funny, we started the social media marketing campaign, and you know, we think I'm a millennial, so I say, hey, I'm pretty savvy. Facebook, we're gonna do Facebook. Well, Facebook does very well in Mexico. I don't know if most of you know, Canada, it's not as popular. So we found out LinkedIn was more popular in Canada. We were able to do more, you know, social media posts for LinkedIn and get more contacts that way. In Mexico, it was Facebook, but what surprised me, which most of you that travel international know this app, WhatsApp was actually more popular in Mexico than Facebook. So by pushing things through WhatsApp, pushing messages and pushing people to a WhatsApp to contact us, that led to even more leads. And it was funny, my rep in Mexico told me that he was cold calling customers, and when the website went live and we started doing the social media marketing campaign, he was getting 10 inquiries a week. So he went from searching for people to call to getting 10 inquiries a week. And so it kind of really changed the way we thought about things and what do we do. So we started really honing in on what industry segments we wanted to target. Okay, is it seasonal? What parts of the country do we want to target, whether it be Canada and Mexico? And what we found was the first year we went live with this is we had over 25% growth in Canada. And we did more in revenue in 1 year to Mexico than we did the previous 15 years combined. So that was just a tremendous exponential increase in sales to Mexico, to the point where we now have a sales office in Mexico. 1 year later, we have a dedicated salesperson in a sales office just for our company in Mexico. We plan to hire 2 to 3 more salespeople in Mexico. But this is what this digital media, social media marketing can do for your company. We did this during the pandemic. So it wasn't like we did this and we traveled. We did this without going to Mexico. We haven't been to Mexico since prior to the pandemic. But we've been able to reach our customers and build brand recognition and everything. And we've been more targeted in what we've been doing. So, right now with Joelle and her team, we're working on some medical stuff. We won't just target the medical industry because, as you all know, with nearshoring, a lot of companies moving or opening in Mexico for the medical industry. So we wanted to focus on that. And I can tell you that in working with IBT, I know most of you are probably already thinking of questions to ask me in our Q&A session. So I'm going to answer a couple before you type them in there real quick. It's real easy to work with IBT Online. It is simple. They send you a keyword search, sheet that you can change words for keyword searches because your lingo and your industry better than they do. But I was surprised at how many of what we would use as slang terms in our industry they already had in keyword search. And so, they're able to help us with that. They were able to help us formulate the social media posts and everything like that. And, you're probably also saying to yourself, well, those are great pictures. It must have cost you a fortune to do all those pictures. Guess what? 99% of those pictures we already had, and you already have those pictures, and you already have content laying around in a server somewhere on flash drives that, IBT can take and work miracles on and turn it around and come up with a really great social media campaign. And so don't be thinking that this is a huge obstacle. I mean, we're only a company of 35 people, and yet we're selling in 28 countries around the world. And just like you that are on this webinar, you're fighting way out of your weight class. And IBT Online will help you to fight way above your weight class because we're fighting with huge multinational companies that have facilities in all these. But one of the biggest takeaways that I will tell you before I turn it back over to the team is I just came back from a trade show. Now it was in the US, but we had a lot of international people from South America, Central America, Mexico, Canada, Europe. And what I heard overwhelmingly, I had people from Colombia that said, hey, I found your website in Mexico and got some information, stopped by the booth to see you guys. But on our Mexican customers, they really feel like we're invested in their market because we have a website localized in Mexico. It makes a difference in sending them to a translated part of your website as opposed to have a localized website. They said, we feel like ASI has now joined us. They've joined our family here in Mexico. They've joined the business community where you're no longer an outsider. You're now more considered a local. And we found that not only with Mexico, but with Canada. And it's definitely helped our distributors and our reps and now our sales team in Mexico because they have a website locally. So on their business cards, they have asiwills.mx, on the card. That's the website you go to. Don't go to the .com, unless you want to see what the US people want to see, don't do it. Go to the Mexico website and see things that are tailored to your country. Because I'll be honest with you, what we sell in the US, we may not completely sell around the world. There are certain, countries and market segments that just don't go well together, or they don't have the capacity to work in those industry sectors. So by being able to localize and tailor your website, you can definitely, really hit your sales goals really quickly. But most importantly, hit your customers and let them know who you are. And the last thing I'll leave you with, before I turn it back over, is video content. Video content is king. So the more videos that you can take of your products working, or your employees, or meet your salesperson or whatever, video content is king. YouTube, putting things up, making good social media posts with video and content. I tell people all the time when they look at our equipment that we build and sell around the world, they go, well, I'd really like to know that. Oh, here's our YouTube channel. Go there. There's 15 videos. You can go right there, or go to our website. You'll see links to our videos, and check it out. But you may want to send that out in a social media post. You may have a message. Visit us at such and such trade show, booth number whatever, and you do that video as you're from your cell phone, and you're doing it as you're setting up at your booth. And those are things that then can be sent out to your customers, and they go, hey, he's there, cool, or she's there, or whoever. So it's interesting and important change that we're in, because like I said, coming from an industry which was all paper pamphlets and everything, I can tell you, coming from a trade show, we took paper pamphlets, nobody took them. Everybody just said, please email me this, or I'll go to your website, or we'll be looking for your videos. But definitely I will say that video is the new king, so to speak, of social media. So the more that you can do in video and be thinking about it, the better off I think you'll be. But don't fret. You have 90% of that stuff that you're going to need already, and your product or your service better than anybody else. And IBT is just here to help you get that message out to your customers. And with that, I'll turn it back over to John and Joelle and let them go from here.
Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us, for sharing this with us and all of our attendees, and for your kind words as per usual. I think that's a very exciting story, and we'll keep pushing the boundaries, pushing our strategy. And I'm so glad you mentioned video, because that's very much the next bit. And I'm conscious of time, and we promise we'll get you back at your desk within the hour, and I want to leave a little bit of time to have a Q&A. But video really has been the trend that we have seen growing in 2022, and really is not slowing down as we approach the end of the third quarter and really enter the end of the year. But what makes video so powerful? And really it's quite simple if you think about it. It's easy to share. As Jonathan, you mentioned, you probably already have a lot of this collateral. It's easy to share. People love it. It's so much easier to watch a 3-minute video than read a 1,500 word blog or technical document on how to use something. So there is a much better engagement. You can improve your brand visibility. YouTube, I mentioned it earlier, within the search engines. That is the #1 search engine in the world. People are searching for results and for their questions on YouTube, even bypassing Google. But also it gives you some very strong measurable metrics and return on your investment. And it's just great for the international audiences. You could reuse your video, your collateral. We have here an example from one of our customers is a US, quite clearly, if you're familiar with the industry, US short video, but just by adding Spanish subtitles and or a Spanish voiceover, that's it. You have a video that can work in the majority of Latin America and Spanish-speaking Europe. So really good for sharing, and really good for leveraging across platform and across markets. One of the things we always say, we talk about search engines. Do optimize your video for search engines. Use your keywords in your title, in the description box, in all of the possible tags you can. Why is this? Because you might have been on Google, and then you start seeing that the first results are videos, and that video could be yours. And again, much higher. I think we've seen the latest stats. I believe we said video engages 12 times more than an image, as something like 57 times more than the written word. So very much invest in video, and just, you don't need a big production house. What you can do with a smartphone these days is incredible. We talked about sharing, and very important here, YouTube, again, top one, but then we have Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Live. All of these platforms are really gearing themselves up to allow you to be there to be live, to be in front of your customers. So YouTube and Facebook very much being the most popular platform for video marketing worldwide. And again, why this is important, opportunities. You know, you have a creativity, you can stand out, is attention grabbing. You've all been on LinkedIn recently, I'm sure, maybe not Facebook, but LinkedIn. You're scrolling down your feed and something catches your eye. Think about it. How often has that been a video as opposed to a post of someone sharing a static image? Also make sure that everything is optimized for mobile. A lot of us spend a lot of time on these. You see, I'm even presenting and I've got it here on my desk. You never know. We spend a lot of time on our mobile phone. So over 75% of all video content is actually consumed on mobile. And then I've mentioned subtitles and voiceover. Because of mobile, captions, voiceover, highlighting key points with writing really does make a difference on how people engage and how long they watch of the video. So I know it all sounds super complicated, but again, we have dedicated resources, we have a dedicated webinar, we are here to help, but very much, I just wanted to take a moment to stress the power of video on social media, the power of video on your website. This is just another example of how a very simple creative can then be reused across 3 different markets. So here we're going for our German speaking targeting to our English speaking European, and then going down to French. Very similar message, very similar vibe, all localized for the local market, all video content, and then again, you'll see the return in no time. I've mentioned, again, we're here to help. The IBT Online team have delivered a number of online global video marketing programs, as well as our more standard, so to speak, online global marketing programs, where we can help with video localization, production, but also marketing, reporting and analytics, or other marketing programs, really leveraging social media, search engine advertising, including video in your website and in your landing pages, with one goal: really helping you with the fastest, most cost-effective way to be found, be understood, and grow your business domestically and internationally. So I know I went through this a little bit quicker, but I just want to hand over to John for the last bit of a recap, few takeaways before we move on to the Q&A. But at this point, we've covered a little bit more about the marketing, and obviously you've heard it firsthand from Jonathan. I'd love to just launch a last poll of today, just to see if any of the attendees that are still with us today would like to learn a little bit more about the online global marketing programs, whether it's video or not. Very much seeing how we can help you grow your social media strategy, grow your search engine optimization, leverage the power of moving image and video, with the idea, as I said, to grow your export sales, brand and business domestically, and more so in our in our expertise globally. I can see a few of you are thinking about it, and others again would love for us to get in touch, so that's fantastic. I'll give a few more seconds, and I think majority have now voted. That's excellent. Let me close this poll, and fantastic. Well, John, I'll hand over to you. Thank you very much.
Sure, no, and I will just briefly summarize. I realize we're close to our time. I'd welcome anyone to put a question into the chat box that we have available. But just in summary, what I'll say is, I think what we're all very well aware of is the fact that the world is online. Clients, prospects, future employees, suppliers, they're going to be searching online, but they're going to be searching online in their local environment. And so to have one of the best tools that you have to reach them would be localized websites and some of the online marketing that we share today, in particular focus on videos. For example, this webinar, we've been recording it. We will make this available. It'll be on a YouTube page and available on the IBT Online website very shortly. So again, the website is your very best sales rep. It's one that doesn't require a commission, and it doesn't sleep. And so this is a really important aspect to consider, because you don't want to miss out on any opportunity to revamp and update your website ahead of an event, for example. This is crucial, as any leads that you'll be making should be able to find you easily online. navigate your site and get a feel for your brand and your products, in particular in the local language, if that's something that's required. Your website should have a variety of content that addresses questions or concerns that your identified buyer persona is seeking. So blogs on the website's a great way for establishing your brand reputation and recognition within the industry. A blog discussing your attendance or engagement at that upcoming event is also great for SEO purposes. Linking that blog to the actual event, give your buyer persona the opportunity to connect and link up at the time. So taking time to go through your website, updating your SEO, adding any relevant content pertaining to an event, for example, as well as situating your brand in the context of the industry. These are all key for your website performance in, for example, a pre-show phase. Also consider that the future of sales. We talked a little bit about that. Thinking digital first is something that you cannot miss with. Looking for that omni-channel approach, looking for multiple touch points through that approach to reach out to your engagement where they are and what they're searching for. Think less about that sales pitch, and it is all about the customer. That's what market trends are showing us, that B2B digital commerce strategy is essential. Customers have to invest in digital technology that improves that buyer experience. And all of this, in the end, customers want an always-on, personalized omni-channel experience. The world's best sellers are doing it already, and so it's something that you and your business can do as well. Finally, in terms of what we do here at IBT Online, what I can tell you is we provide those best practice optimally localized business development websites. They are all designed with international focus. We've got a lot of experience at this and can help your business be found, be understood, and be easy to do business with. And then we have a suite of international online marketing services as well, search engine marketing, social media marketing, reporting, analytics, all of that can help you grow your traffic, grow your engagements, and most importantly, grow those conversions. So just I think the final two slides here will just give you an idea of where IBT Online is. It's something that serves all over the US, every US state, as well as the Canadian provinces. And finally, our last slide, Joelle, we'll just talk about something that'll be an asset for anyone on the webinar today to learn more about us. It's very easy to go to ibt.onl and take a look at the infographics that we make available, webinars that we make available, blog entries, and information about our services, as well as some of the grant opportunities that would apply for the states that you live in. And so that's just a little bit of information about us. And Joelle, I don't know if we have any questions, but happy to take some now.
John, thank you so much. I've been curating the questions that come in throughout the webinar, and I've been trying to, and I'm very conscious of time, I've been trying to group them together. So if we don't get to answer any of the questions that have been submitted, please do know we'll get back to you individually. And here you've got all of our contact details. If there is anything more that we can help with, please do get in touch. But I have one here for yourself, Jonathan. Someone was particularly interested by, obviously, your last comment about resources. And obviously, all of that work, it looks quite impressive, but how much of your internal resources does this process take, let's say on a weekly or on a monthly basis? How much of the ASI resources dedicated to, working with IBT Online on those markets?
Well, I mean, it depends on how many markets you're doing and how many websites, but obviously we would have a monthly meeting with IBT for about an hour where we talk about what we're going to be focusing on for the next social media targeting, if it's a quarterly thing or bi-monthly thing. But internally, I would say, we spend probably 3 to 4 hours a week getting together, but we would do that anyway for marketing. So, you're using the same time that you would use for marketing and looking at brochures and stuff, but now you're looking at it in a digital way. So you don't look at it as it's added time. I call it a better use of my time, because like I said, we did marketing for the digital stuff and that worked out great. We brought brochures and stuff that we spent time on and nobody took it. So, I mean, the choice is yours, how you want to spend your time. But I would say on average, probably 2 hours a week. And in the beginning, it's not going to be much more than that, because like I said, you have 90% of the stuff that IBT is going to be asking for.
That's excellent. Thank you so much. I know that we've had a few questions about, for B2B, which channels would you choose? What is the best social media? Where would you put your, I think, resources as meant to read? It really depends on which target markets you're going after. I think, Jonathan, you made a fantastic example comparing Mexico to Canada. Facebook, LinkedIn, WhatsApp. If you're going into China, there's a completely different suite of opportunities and marketing platforms you have. If we're going into Southeast Asia, again, we're talking about different messaging apps and different social media. So it's very much depending on B2B, B2C, but also even in the, defined B2B, depending on your target market and depending on your buyer persona. So IBT Online marketing team are here, especially at the beginning, to do their work together, to do the research, to discuss who is our target market, who's our buyer persona. Then we'll research how they engage, which platform they use, we'll A/B test. So unfortunately, I don't quite have a clear-cut answer, but I think that's the exciting, world of marketing out there. Is so variable, it changes every day, and that's something that will continue to evolve. One last question. I think, John, you mentioned briefly in your recap that there is support available. People are asking, how do we take advantage of the IBT Online Global Program? Is there support available? You mentioned some grants. Could you tell us a little bit more on where to find information?
Sure, and what I can tell folks is that, Jonathan, you and I here in North Carolina, we're in the trenches back in 2008, 2009 during the Great Recession. And in 2010, the Obama administration started the National Export Initiative, which ultimately led to the SBA, Congress providing funds, and the SBA creating a program that was focused on grant opportunities to promote exports. The idea was that the United States wanted to see exports double between 2010 and 2015. We didn't quite hit that, but we have seen remarkable growth since then, and it's been productive, and we've seen increases every year, with the exception of 2020 during the pandemic, but most states have seen those gains come back. But this is extremely important work, and that STEP program continues to go. It's something that is available in each state on the IBT Online website. We have links to specific state programs. If you'd like information about the export promotion contacts in your state, we're happy to provide those as well. All of those, but if you were to live in the state of Virginia, for example, if you were to look up the Virginia Economic Development Partnership and STEP program, you'll find a link to the information, or you can contact someone at IBT Online and we'd be happy to direct you to those programs. But they really make a difference. These are designed, initially it was focused a lot on trade shows and travel reimbursements, translation of marketing material, but now it's really pivoted into much more focus onto online marketing, website optimization, and other work. So they're fantastic programs, and they're available in every state.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And absolutely, do get in touch. We'll wrap it up for today. Just gone past the hour. Thank you so much for sticking with us. As John, you mentioned, the webinar has been recorded, so we will be sharing a recording of today's event. I want to say Monday, since today's Thursday, and it will also be uploaded on the IBT Online website. It will be available on our YouTube channel, so please do feel free to go and find it. If you think that it could be helpful to someone you know, feel free to share it, and we'd love to hear from you if you have any further question past today's webinar. But before we come to a close, I just wanted to share a really big thank you, Jonathan, for joining us and for sharing your experience with our attendees. Absolutely fantastic value, and really appreciate your support.
Thank you for having me.
Everyone, have a great afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you're based, and we look forward to seeing you online very soon. Thank you very much, John. Thank you very much.